We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order. At this time, our clerk will read the roll.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
I'm sorry, aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
All members are present.
Before we proceed with the rest of our meeting, I would like to open up our meeting with a moment of silence, as we did lose a true pillar in our community. We lost Attorney John Sharp. And so just really want to have a moment of silence as we extend our condolences to his family and just also all those that he touched. We know that he contributed and was a true champion of community, justice, and civil rights. Thank you. At this time, we're going to ask Pastor Rocco Wellington to open us up with prayer. Immediately following our prayer, I'm going to ask if Councilwoman Amobian will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And all those who wish to stand, if you like to voluntarily, you can stand for prayer and the pledge.
As we go to the throne of grace, Father God, in the name of Jesus, we humbly come before you tonight, Lord, thanking and praising you for this day. We thank you for the many blessings that you've bestowed upon us. And we ask, Lord, that you would bless this meeting. We ask that you would bless our mayor, bless this council, and protect our city, Father. We ask, Lord, also that you would look upon the Sharp family and that you would bless and comfort them in this time that is so difficult for all. We ask, Father, that you would fill this place with your presence. Give us the wisdom and knowledge and understanding to get things that need to be done taken care of. And we'll give you the glory and the honor that you so rightly deserve. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes from our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections? Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The minutes pass 12-0 with one abstention.
Before you, you have the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes 13-0.
We do have two public hearings scheduled for this evening. Our clerk will read in item number 1.
Notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, December 12th, 2022, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a special event center banquet hall at 133 Merriman Road.
Mr. Antonucci?
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of council. Temple Hall Revival Group, LLC, is requesting approval to establish a performing arts facility and event space at this property. The Temple Hall Revival Group has purchased a site, currently referring to it as the Highland Universal Gathering Spot. They have proposed to use the center for a performance hall and rehearsal spaces, in addition to other proposed educational performing art opportunities. It's also proposed that the adjacent lower level will be used as event space to accommodate weddings, fundraisers, or other celebrations. The site has been vacant since June 2018. There are no plans to change the exterior of the building with the exception of additional exterior lighting and new signage. An area to the north of the building will be landscaped to create a tiered garden. This space could accommodate additional future parking if need arises. The purchase of the site includes the parking lot situated at the northwest corner of Merriman Road and Marshall Street. City Council approved the designation of this property as a local historic landmark on September 12th of this year. The reuse of the site will allow for the reutilization of this vacated building to provide opportunities for students of the arts and celebrations for people within the greater Akron area. It is located along a major corridor within the Highland Square neighborhood that will allow sufficient walkable access to the site and will accommodate people from within as well as outside the neighborhood. Office of Integrated Development, Planning Staff, and Planning Commission recommend approval, subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So at this time, we're going to open up our public hearing. Do we have anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or against item number 1? Just going to ask that you can stand at this time so that you can be sworn in by a member of our law department.
Hi, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth? If so, please respond by saying I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tony Tropy from the Temple Hall Revival Group. I had a friend ask me when I came in if I was going for the Santa Claus look. And the answer is yes, actually. Since I celebrate Christmas every day, I think it's appropriate that I come bearing gifts tonight. And that gift that I bring to you is an easy one to look at, an easy idea to help pass. The idea of us bringing together people for the right reasons to celebrate the arts is the mission behind our new effort at the Highland Universal Gathering Spot. And if you've ever been to Blue Jazz, you know that I love acronyms. BLU is simply right below you. But the Highland Universal Gathering Spot is just that, HUG. It's a big hug. It's a hug. It's a place to embrace. It's a place for people to come together to celebrate the arts. And it's that simple. And so I'll keep it brief because I know you've got other items to cover tonight. So this should be a real easy one for us to nod approvingly and say, what we need is for more people to get together for the right reasons, to celebrate the arts. Because the arts has a tremendous power to unify us, to bring us together, to find out what we have in common, as opposed to our differences. The address is appropriate as well. It's 133 Merriman, some call it. I prefer the latter, or the former, or both. But the idea really is the Psalms we celebrate, and it's an appropriate season to be looking at all the good news about us. But the 133rd Psalm is, "Behold, how good and pleasant it is for the brethren to gather together in unity." In unity. And what can bring us all together is the arts. So it's appropriate that we would take this historic building and find its new light, as it always has been a reflection of the light, in this fashion, that we would celebrate and bring together artists and art lovers, all ages, all races, all flavors. The educational component here is what I feel to be most attractive, in that our executive director of our 501c3 is Bobby Salvaggio. He's the Jazz Studies Director at Kent State. He will now be directing our students to come together to find out about the creative process, the collaborative creative process, from thought to finish. A lot of people think about performing arts as the end product, but it's the process that gets us there, and I feel that this is what's going to help bring people together for the right reasons at this location, at this time, and it's a great opportunity for Highland Square to have a foci where they all come together and see how the arts are made, built, and performed. It's a great place for celebrations. It's always been about celebration there. So we're not really changing the use, we're simply changing the users, as it's becoming more inclusive to a community. And over the front door, we're reminded of the great commandment to love thy neighbor as thyself, and that's what we're setting to do. We are on a mission, and we ask you to tell your friends and neighbors to support this good idea. Questions, comments, concerns? I'll be here for a minute, as we all are. Just a minute.
Okay. All right, well, thank you so much. If there is no one else here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or against, we're going to go ahead and close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco, what is the committee's pleasure?
I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Kamer? Aye. Connor?
Aye.
Baylor?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
For the committee's favorable, we're asking for passage this evening.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes. A few weeks ago, this council had approved a historic designation for this particular property. Mr. Tropy has a great reputation in terms of developing property within our city and preserving, you know, what important places like this. So and I believe the ward council representative, Ms. Holland, is in favor of this. And so with that, we're recommending approval this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So the rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0.
Okay, thank you.
Aye. That was unanimous, actually.
Thank you. Thank you.
Notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, December 12th, 2022, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct a commercial facilities and grounds building at 389 Edgewood Avenue.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. The Akron Zoological Park is proposing to construct a new facilities and grounds maintenance building. The new structure would measure 50 feet in width and 167 feet 4 inches in length. The exterior would be clad with metal vertical siding with a metal roof system. The structure would house offices, lockers, and meeting room for the facility staff, as well as the maintenance and fabrication area. Parking for 11 golf carts would be provided along the south side of the building, and 34 spaces for vehicles and larger equipment would be in 2 rows to the north of the structure. Ingress and egress would be from both the north and south ends of the parking lot. The existing barn structure would be removed from the property to provide the area for the parking lot with the existing hoop house would be relocated just to the north of the parking lot. A stormwater detention pond would be provided north of the building. Additional fencing matching the existing would be provided to enclose the perimeter of the property, and landscaping would screen the parking. Petitioner states the new facilities and grounds facility will support the operations of the Akron Zoo. By relocating these supporting departments outside the fenced footprint of the park, additional acreage for future expansion of animal buildings within can be created. The building would be well insulated and all waste would be stored inside. The Office of Integrated Development, Planning Staff, and Planning Commission recommend approval subject to conditions.
Thank you so much. At this time, we're going to open up our public hearing. Do we have anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or against item number 2? Just ask that you please stand at this time so that you may be sworn in by a member of our law department.
Hi, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth? If so, please respond by saying I do. Thank you.
And you can approach the podium.
Good evening. My name is Susan Allen. I'm with TC Architects, and I'm representing the Akron Zoo right now. Doug Peacush from the zoo sends his apologies. He was able to make this afternoon's meeting, but not tonight's meeting. This is a well-needed building for them to expand the zoo, to provide more areas for the animals within the containment fencing, and allows to have their staff all under one building right now. So I'm really here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Thank you so much. So seeing and hearing no one else, we're going to go ahead and close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco, what's the committee's pleasure?
I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Kamer? Connor?
Aye.
Baylor?
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Yes, thank you. The report of the committee is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. This is, as we had heard this afternoon and this evening, this is a building that's needed by the zoo to support their efforts in terms of educating the community. 50 by 167, I think, is the size of the building. And we had heard EANDC also came in and spoke in favor of this. They've agreed to the 15 or so conditions. I know you're in favor of it, the ward council person, and recommend approval this evening.
Okay, thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13 to 0.
Okay. That concludes our public hearings. We'll move into old business, planning and economic development. Councilman Fusco.
Yes, thank you. Time on 3 through and including 6. The report of the committees for suspension of the rules on 7. This is a TIF legislation in support of 201 South Main Street. It's a TIF. It was brought in 11/21, and so I believe council's had an opportunity to look it over. So we're recommending approval this evening.
Okay.
Again, 201 South Main Street.
Okay, thank you so much. Any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13 to 0.
Councilman Fusco.
The report of the committee on item number 8 is favorable, and we're asking for passage this evening.
Any further comment?
Yes, this is another TIF in support of the Firestone Business Park and Cole Avenue Extension for the public improvements. This is in lieu of taxes. We're asking for approval this evening.
Okay, thank you so much. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13 to 0.
Councilman Fusco.
The report of the committee on item number 9 is for is a favorable report. We're asking for approval this evening.
Okay, thank you so much. Any further comment?
Again, this is in reference to the Goodrich Building, former Goodrich Building, and Opportunity Park Urban Renewal District. Again, it's a TIF, and we're asking for approval this evening. It was introduced on November 21st.
Okay, thank you so much. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13 to 0.
Councilman Fusco.
Yes, the report of the committee is favorable. We're asking for passage. This is in reference to the White Pond development. Certainly appreciate the interest that has come forward, and the emails, over 130 emails have come to council members throughout. We've also heard over 400 minutes of comment during our public comment period.
We've also, and as a result of all those comments, we've made adjustments. We also had a request to take time so that there would be opportunity to hear from the community, from the neighborhood. We did that. I know the administration and many council members were there present for that meeting. And we have made adjustments along the way. And we have, this would be the 5th reading of this particular proposal. FAQs were produced based on questions that came forward. Every single request that was made was that the information was provided for the public consumption. So based on that, I believe it's time for us to go ahead and approve this evening. Thank you.
We're just going to ask that we maintain order in the chambers. Thank you, just out of respect. So the committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Point of order, Madam Chair, point of order.
Do we see some hands? I'm so sorry. Thank you. Thank you so much. Councilwoman Mosley?
I appreciate that we're calling for a vote right now, but seeing that this legislation is now in the front of the council as a whole, I respectfully like to make a motion for our residents to be able to speak before we vote on this.
Thank you. I also want to acknowledge Councilman Malik has a comment. There's a motion on the floor, so therefore she needs a second. Okay, so at this time what we'll do is we're going to do a roll call.
To be clear, this is a roll call on the motion for residents to speak before the vote? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Baylor?
Nay.
Connor?
Nay.
Freeman? Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Nay.
McKittrick?
Nay.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Maybe I should wait for instructions on how I should vote, but aye.
Amobian?
I missed that.
Yeah. So if you can please keep your comments down, because Councilwoman Amobian, she's calling your roll call. Did you hear that? Okay.
Somerville?
Nay. Councilman Malik?
With hundreds of residents raising their voices in alarm over the White Pond development, our city government should listen. We should take the time to fully consider before making a significant and irreversible decision. Instead, we're here for a final vote on the sale of the property. I've heard from a lot of residents on this, most of whom are either in opposition to the project or feel their questions and concerns have been dismissed. In addition, on Friday, Council received revised development plans that are fairly different from what we've discussed over the past 6 months. For these reasons, I'm not going to support the sale. It's clear that Akron needs responsible development. To maintain and grow our population, we need new housing supply, including affordable housing and market rate of housing. But we also can't grow Akron by latching onto every development proposal, even when considerations of environmental sustainability, quality of life, and community input all go the other way. And here, many residents are saying that they want to see something better. With respect, they're not asking for adjustments. They want to see something better. Throughout the fall, as more and more people have learned about this project, through community organizing, thank you to the people here who have done that, through community organizing, through social media, through the Beacon Journal, it's clear that many residents have fair questions and concerns about whether the site should be developed at all. In 2 public meetings, 60 residents at the Northwest Library and then 200 residents at St. Sebastian's Whistler Hall came together to share thoughtful and constructive concerns. Almost 500 Akron residents have signed a petition asking for this process to be slowed down. What I've heard over and over again is, we don't think you've looked at this closely enough. We're not convinced this is a good idea. And as someone who voted for the rezoning, As I take a closer look, my response has been, point taken. For many neighbors along White Pond, this is the only park-like area within walking distance. It's worth asking whether our shared goals of growing our city are best served by building new housing on this land and potentially disrupting or eliminating what is clearly a quality of life feature for the existing neighborhood. Just a few weeks ago, environmental reports were shared showing elevated chemical levels in the soil. And while the land has been certified for office and construction use, it hasn't been certified for residential use. Finally, traffic. For my whole life, the White Pond Mall 77 corridor has been a mess. And while a traffic study released last week shows minimal impact from this development, residents are saying that the status quo has gone unaddressed for too long. These are only a few of the issues, but I mention these to point out that the concerns are reasonable. In recent weeks, city government and concerned residents have delved into these issues more deeply and asked more questions. The mayor's team has shared a lot of information, and residents have shared a lot as well. As for me, the more I look at it, the less confident I am that this proposed development is the best use of the land. Maybe it should be a park that would strengthen the existing neighborhoods. Maybe new housing could be built along Market by redeveloping vacant retail space. But no matter what ultimately happens at the site, this vote feels rushed. And much of the information shared recently feels like a justification for a decision that has already been made instead of an opportunity to really dig into legitimate concerns. This proposed development is a crystal clear example of how our local government needs better ways of engaging with residents around controversial issues in a proactive and respectful way. For big land use decisions, which are always going to be controversial, we should start with public meetings and public engagement before putting staff time and developer money into a detailed plan. Akron needs responsible, sustainable development and action. That can only happen when people feel heard, when they're not treated as an obstacle, but rather part of a solution to the growth our city needs.
Thank you, Councilman Malik. Is there any other council members? Councilman Neal, did I see your hand?
Yes, Madam President. I want to thank the residents that have shared their concerns and educated us on some of their concerns. You know, I want to thank the developer. And believe it or not, I even want to thank the administration. But here's where we have an opportunity to make this right. So my colleagues have mentioned this. When you say you want to have a collaborative process, it means that you take time to hear people. You know, as a councilman for the ward, constituents have made me heightened concerned about potential flooding of Delia Estates, which is downstream from there. I don't see Mr. Luttle here. He and I had conversations. If any of you know about Delia Estates, by the way they built the expressway and have water runoff, it floods there. Those are on slabs. They don't have basements. So when it floods, it goes right into their homes. Who's going to guarantee that their homes won't flood? My other concern is this, and I asked this question. We know that there's wildlife there. If this project goes forward, and let me be transparent, all those who have talked to me know, I like the project, but I believe that the concerns that residents have mentioned need to be addressed. I appreciate that Triton has revised their plan, but as has been mentioned, we need more time to look at it. But if we go in there and develop, are we just going to go and let the wildlife that's there, that we know is there, just run off into the neighborhood without any concern of trying to remove it? And then, you know, we're building that fire station on land that's pretty similar to where Triton is going to be developing. That's been sitting without any development, further development, for about 2 months now. Now, I've been told it's because we're waiting for some plans to come by. But if you talk to people that live just on the other side of Hawkins, across where that is, their homes are still sinking, still settling. Where Wesley Towers is, the parking lot there, I talked to Mr. John Fuller, the parking lot there is now 3 feet lower than when it was when that was first started. It now have steps coming up. So I'm concerned because, like I said, I believe in the project, but I want it to work. If we have these other things that make us take pause. What is it to take pause? We cannot take it until April 30th, but we can take to the end of January, mid-February to address all of these issues. Because again, my question is, for those folks who have invested and lived in Delia Estates for all this time, can we guarantee that there won't be exasperated flooding in that area? And if there is, who's going to be responsible for that? When we push this wildlife out with the development, who, you know, are we just going to push it out into the neighborhoods? This, and all the other concerns that have been expressed. You know, I shared something that I heard when I went to the NACP state conference, and the gentleman said that relationships move at the speed of trust, and social change moves at the speed of relationships. Our city is, I mean, we've got a chance to really build trust just by taking time and really listen to our constituents. Forcing us through is business as usual. And I asked the question, if everything that we've been told, if even a fraction of it is true, it jeopardizes this project. And it jeopardizes those folks that live right by there and downstream in Delia Estates. I say we take time just to make sure. Again, 100% transparent, I like the project, but there are too many questions on things that can impact that community. It cannot be reversed once we start down this road if we don't take time to really do our due diligence.
Councilwoman Amobian?
Thank you, Madam President. I think I admitted to my own negligence earlier on when I went to the first meeting at the library, when I learned more about the land, the wetlands, the species, and all of those things. I admitted that I didn't ask the right questions, and then I stated at that time, when you learn more, you do better after you learn. And one of the things I want us to remember is that these individuals who have come down and who've held meetings in the community, they have made us aware of a number of things that I'm deeply troubled by. And I can tell you that I live about 2 blocks from this development. And the more the residents that are not directly impacted hear about this, they are more disturbed than a lot of these people who have come down here. And they have asked us to stop the project. So I can only tell you that I am deeply troubled by us rushing to do this. And I'm more troubled by the fact that we stop people from even talking with us in public meetings. You know, take the meeting this afternoon. If you had allowed the 5 or 6, maybe 7 people to speak, we only give them 3 minutes. You're talking about 3 times 7 at the most would have been 21 additional minutes that we would have heard from the public. We're not asking for much when we do this, and I think we need to look at our process, particularly when we say that we conduct the business in our committee meetings. If people take the time to come down here, at least they should be heard. And there should be no limit to how many times people want to speak in terms of a meeting. But it's almost like, you know, you recap the fact that we've had this meeting, that meeting, and all of that. But every time we've had a meeting, either something has changed about the project, we've learned more information about the project. So there should be no limit to how people give us information. Because I've always assumed that when something is presented to us by the administration, that all of the work that needed to be done was done. But I think they even admitted that some of the things had not been done, and they've gone back with the developer to make some corrections or some different suggestions. There should be more dialogue, and there's not a problem with us delaying things, and there should be no rush to end conversations with taxpayers who are going to be living with this project for a lifetime. This is not that you can undo if you find that you made a mistake. You know, we're developing something that's going to be there for a long time, I'm assuming. You know, so there should be no rush to this project. And again, I thank the citizens for coming down. Thank you for educating me, because I've learned so much from you. And I really wish we would take the time on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Freeman?
And I'm looking around, I think I'm the only council member that was here 15 years ago. 15 years ago, we voted to buy the property. 15 years ago, we voted to develop the property. 15 years ago, we ran infrastructure in, so I'm going to vote yes tonight, because I myself, I don't see this as a project that it's new. I mean, a lot of this was decided. I don't think anything's changed with the property. So I just feel I need to be consistent with what I said 15 years ago. Thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman Holland?
Thank you, Madam President. As I explained this afternoon, my greatest concern at this point is that just a few short weeks ago, we were presented with a very helpful document, which very helpfully pointed us to a number of source documents. For those members of the public who are watching or listening, the QR code on the FAQ sheet will guide you to the source documents used to create the FAQ sheet. Now, just about an hour and a half ago, I received an email from a very knowledgeable member of the public who asked this simple question, predicated on the thing that I think we can all understand and agree about. That within those source documents that underlie the FAQs are some 403 pages of Phase 1 and Phase 2 EPA reports, 403 pages. And what is abundantly clear is that those Phase 1 and 2 reports envision a business development. Now, what did we learn from the FAQs and the underlying documents? That there are significant soil contaminants at this site. So, the citizen asks the question, can the soil sampling and soil gas study and a shared residential comparison report be a requirement included in the city's agreement with Triton? Now, without delving into that detail or entertaining that precise question right now, I think it really highlights an important point. We've identified just a few short weeks ago that there are some significant contaminants that have already been found in the soil. What are we talking about here? Cadmium, arsenic, lead. The Phase 1 and 2 reports even show the presence of barium. Now, what we can reasonably understand is that there are different standards for what is a permissible level for a business development versus a residential development. Now, what I brought up this afternoon is that I am concerned that what we may be doing here, if we go forward with this development without full information and provision within the development agreement for the safety of our citizens, present and future, is that we will be handing a dangerous and concerning situation to, of all people, renters. Now, it is for these reasons and my concern that we not move fast under such circumstances that I would ask either for a brief amount of additional time so that this development agreement can adequately address the very real concerns of the public, or alternatively, if we're voting tonight, my vote will be no. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Fusco?
Thank you. Thank you, President Somerville. The way we have, the way most organizations, excuse me, governmental organizations, the way they operate, including Akron Public Schools, including county council, including most councils out there throughout the state of Ohio. We've looked into that. During the business meetings of their committee meetings, it is up to the discretion of the chair of that particular committee. But for the most part, they do not allow just someone to walk in and make comment. That's not the way it's done, or even, and it's up to folks in terms of if they choose, you know, to request that in advance. But this is, again, this is a business meeting, and we ask for decorum, and we try to run this as professional as possible. I understand, you know, many here on council has changed their vote in terms of, you know, after taking 3.5 months to look at the zoning on this with a whole lot of intention, a whole lot of questions being asked then, and that was without a whole lot of public input in terms of, you know, what was going to happen, what was going to go on there. The next steps are the developer, and we've known for years that there's problems with this site. It's no secret. We did the work. We've known that for years. Now what we have is someone who is going to take on that risk. Someone who's going to take on that risk. Okay. They're going to take out the permits, the necessary permits, before they construct anything whatsoever. All those permits to all the appropriate agencies is going to have to be followed. And those agencies are going to be the ones. That's cute.
We're going to ask that you please keep down the comments and the noises. Again, this is an official meeting, and we need to maintain decorum in this space.
The appropriate agencies will be notified. They will do their due diligence. These people are professionals. People in the city, the people in the building department, people in the EPAs, people, the various departments all over will have to check off before anything is actually done. And also in terms of the zoning, basically this is on a border of 2 wards, okay? And it's interesting if you think about the border and 2 wards and the approach from the 2 wards. In one instance, what you have is you have a council person who spent time with a developer, who spent time with a planning department, who spent time with me, and we had many discussions about it. We had, we even, this particular council representative asked to take time, Mr. Malik, he asked to take time on it. This would have been in July. Can we take time? That took us over August break into September. We took time then. Okay, we took time then. And the only discussion, the only comments, the only exchange I had with the other council person, which, you know, you would think that if you have something that comes across your desk and ward council representatives are informed, everybody in the city is informed whenever a petition comes in for conditional use. On June 10th, there was a planning commission meeting on this, on the development of 65 acres in Ward 4. Okay. Also heard about the $50 million expense that's going to go in. You would think every council member here, they do their due diligence on every conditional use. They check it out. They go to the sites. They talk to neighbors. They do all of that. The only exchange I had with the Ward 4 council person was right before the vote. I went like this, or you want to pass it? And yeah, let's go ahead. That was the only exchange. Again, that big of a development, that huge of a change in your district, you would think you would take the time to ask questions, you would take the time to engage with the community. We had 3 people, I believe, that came before us in terms of the conditional use request public hearings that we had. So with that, again, oh, and it's also important too, if there's a problem and this doesn't go forward, if you look at it, what happens is, it's the city of Akron has a first right of refusal to get the land back. So if one of these permits fails and it cannot be followed through, we will get it back. However, me personally, based on the zoning, based on the strength of the proposal, and welcoming new people into our city, I believe we should vote yes on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Neal?
Yeah, Madam President, just for a point of order, Mr. Fusco, why do you lie so much? Why do you lie so much? We had a meeting with 200 people. I would have expected you as an at-large planning commission meeting person to be there. And in regards to all these meetings beforehand that you said you had, didn't hear anything from you. My cell phone number is public. Didn't hear anything from any constituents, anyone, until after the meetings with my colleague, which is fine. And when I found that out, we had a meeting with a few folks, with the developer. And then we moved from there. But that being said, we are where we are right now. And the proper thing to do, when you say you want to have collaboration, is to honor the process. Honor those folks who weren't funded by the Knight Foundation, weren't funded by any GAR or anyone, like Summit Lake or some of these other places, took of their time to coordinate that meeting and produce the reports. I join my colleagues in saying we should take time to make sure that we address all those. Because again, I want to ask this question. Who is going to be held responsible if we go forward with this project and it exacerbates the flooding down in Delia Estates? And God forbid, what is happening over where they built over by Wesley Towers takes place over there, where the land starts to sink. I mean, someone sent an email I was reading today that said that's going to be further exasperated because it's by the train tracks. These are legitimate questions. We're working in the best interest of the developer, the community, the city as a whole, if we take time and listen to this. Again, like I said, I like the project, but pushing for a vote today, my vote is no.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Fusco?
Yeah, finally. I wasn't talking about this particular proposal. I mean, misdirection, you can call it spinning it the way you want. I was talking about June 10th. Whenever this lands on your desk, you are a council representative representing Ward 4. This huge project lands on your desk. We took till September 19th to vote on it. We took all that time to vote on it, ask questions of the planning department, meet with a developer, go to the site. But typically, like I said, these ward council people here, they do their due diligence and they talk to the community often before a project goes forward, as well as the planning department gets all the answers in advance. Again, all of the flooding, all of the concerns, etc., all of that, all this is going to be permitted. And if there's problems that are discovered by even outside agencies, not only our own, I mean the building department, they have people who are trained in looking at soil conditions, etc. That's going to be on them to make sure that this doesn't, that the concerns are addressed. So that's it. And I'd also like to ask that we take a vote now.
Okay, thank you. I do see Councilman Neal. Councilman Barrow, did you have something?
No.
Okay, Councilman Neal, do you have something? Going to ask that you maintain order, Councilman Neal.
Yes, ma'am. Again, as the ward council person who talked to the planning department, talked to the developer, and it's no secret. Again, I talked to the community. Mr. Fusco, since we haven't passed that menacing legislation right now, just yet, it's obvious, man, just your disrespect for certain parts of this community. Since we haven't passed that menacing legislation yet, it's obvious just your blatant disrespect for certain parts of this community. And you're on tape lying multiple times. So in regards to this, How I run my business, how I run my ward is how I run my ward. When I get questions or concerns from my constituents, I address them. But you are the planning committee person. Not once did you reach out. If you heard concerns, because I didn't hear any. So again, as the ward council person, I have concerns about how this project, which I like, is going to impact my constituents who live in the Delia Estates area. I have concerns about how this project is going to impact those who live right around there if we go into developing and push that wildlife out into the community. So I respectfully ask that we take time, honor those citizens that came together to put together a list of their concerns so that we as a council could look them over and address them. Taking time will not hurt. I know the developer has, with the construction project, he has people waiting that he has to contract with. We cannot take until April, but we can take to address the concerns until the end of January, early February, so we can answer everything. That's all I'm asking for.
Thank you, Councilman Neal. Councilman Mallett, do you have another comment?
Clearly there are
Would you
lots
please stand, Councilman Mallett? Thank you.
Clearly, there are lots of opinions about this. I think we all owe it to the residents not to have it just descend into personal disagreements between people.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. I do want to say this. Community engagement is so important. So I want to thank all the residents who have come down, who have given their voices. Again, we know projects are better when the community is engaged. We're engaging the community during with Summit Lake. We're engaging the community around conversations and things that are happening in Summit Lake and the Inner Belt. There's a lesson that we can learn from White Pond, is that we bring residents in community engagement in the beginning of the process. In the beginning of the process. Meetings that were just held 3 weeks ago should have been held months ago. And that's the only thing that I want to say at this moment in time. So at this time, we're going to take a vote. All in favor, we're going to ask for a roll call at this time.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco. Holland.
Nay.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Nay.
Mosley.
Nay.
Neal.
Nay.
Amobian.
Nay.
Somerville.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-6.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to item number 9, item number 10. So what we're going to do at this time, we're going to actually ask our police officers to clear the chambers so that we can continue with business.
Don't care about your citizens. So you're gonna get a job after this? You've all been bought and paid for. Come on, folks.
So at this time, council will go into recess. Okay, so we are going to resume the meeting for Akron City Council. And we're going to pick up where we left off, and I do believe that is item number 11 on the old business.
Yes, thank you, President Somerville. Time on 11 and 12. We will request that we file 13. That's the petition. Time on 14 through and including 18. Missing something here. Oh, Merriman, I'm sorry. 16, we'll file 16. That's the petition for the Merriman Road we just voted on. And then the report of the committee on 19 is adverse. It's an adverse report on item number 19.
Okay, so item number 19, the committee's report is adverse. Are there any additional comments?
Just that we had this public hearing some time ago, I can see 9/12/22. There was some folks who were against it within the community. I know Mr. McKittrick has been, I don't know if he has any comments or not, but I know the ward council person's against it as well.
Okay, Councilman McKittrick?
Thanks, Mr. Fusco, and thanks, Madam President. I spoke earlier today at the committee. I just feel that what we have in this location is just not going to accommodate doubling the size of the daycare. We did have in 2020 a very similar circumstance that actually had better parking than what this has and more availability of vehicles not causing problems. And those petitioners did withdraw their petition after Councilwoman Amobian had made that suggestion to them. So I think this is even a tighter spot than that initial location that we were considering back in 2020. Thank you.
Thank you. The Councilwoman Amobian?
I just want to make sure that we're clear that the daycare that they currently have will continue. Their daycare will continue, it's just it won't be doubled in size. Thank you.
Correct. Councilman Neal, did I see your hand?
Yes, ma'am. Just want to respect the ward council person, but if this is what I remember, especially since we're for economic development, we're for helping, I believe this was a young couple that's trying to get their business up. Is there a way to give them a conditional use or to see how, if it really adversely impacts the community before you just vote it down?
If I,
Councilman Fusco?
just if I understand it correctly, oh yeah, Mr. Antonucci's over there. If I understand it correctly, and Mr. Antonucci's here for further questions, but from what I understand is that it would be, they would be permitted to continue the existing use of 6 children. They would not be permitted to use it as a 12 for 12 children. Is that accurate? That's correct. Okay, yes, so they could stay as a 6-child facility, just couldn't go to 12.
Okay. Councilman Neal?
Just for clear, I mean, I understand that, but correct me if I'm wrong, Councilman, it wasn't the concern of 12 children, it was the concern of the added traffic, correct? It wasn't the 12 children, it was the added traffic. So, I mean, my thing is to see if the traffic is actually added. What happens if somebody has, one family has 4 children, another family has 3 children, multiple children, they bring them to this daycare. It's not like 12 individual cars. I'm just, because I kind of remember the young couple when they came down. Just asking to give it a chance, and if it adversely impacts that neighborhood, well then you let them know that it's on a temporal place. They can let their customers know that it's on a temporal place. But I know how child care is a premium. Most home child care providers are a lot less expensive than the other ones. And so it's not only those families that they service that we would be able to help, but of course this young families, I mean, this is a part of their livelihood. I want to respect that neighborhood. Again, I want to respect that neighborhood, but to my understanding, the concern wasn't 12 children. it was added traffic. And it's not necessarily a given that increasing it from 6 to 12 is going to add more traffic. So that's why I'm asking if it's possible to have, we may not have done this in the past, but to give it a chance to see. I mean, maybe they'll know that families that they take would have to have multiple children so that they wouldn't have to increase the traffic. Just a thought, because I know these have come for us multiple times. I remember you, Mr. Mobian, even asking, are we going to do this every time since the state has made it? But that, out of respect again for that neighborhood, the concern was, I believe, more traffic, not more children. Just asking.
Councilman McKittrick, respond.
Thanks, Madam President. As this approached, I spent a lot of time looking back through the YouTube videos of the people who came and spoke in regard to both of these locations. These are very similar as far as the comments from the people who spoke against both of these locations. But when the people came in objection to the previous location on Country Club Drive, that particular footprint is a corner lot, and it has a circle, or a quarter circle driveway, so it shouldn't cause any problem as far as traffic. But that was a big issue. Plus, that particular property had a second driveway, so there was an abundance of parking that would be off-street. This particular location on New York Circle is a very small cul-de-sac. You couldn't park anywhere on the street without violating city ordinances. Measuring between the driveways, there's no way to park a vehicle there. And going back to the previous consideration on Country Club Drive, we actually, there were only 2 council people that spoke in regard to it. It was Councilwoman Amobian had suggested the petitioners remove their request, and the ward councilman spoke. He saw both sides, but he thought that it wasn't warranted to increase it. So those were the only council people that spoke in regard to that in consideration. But looking at the videos, they are very similar in what the residents were complaining at both locations. So I think that this newer request is even a little dicier to allow to increase. Thank you.
Councilwoman Mosley and then Councilman Malik.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do like what Councilman Neal said about maybe something temporary to see how the traffic on the street either picks up or does not. I did review the videos that were sent to all of council last night, and I just didn't see the traffic that some of the neighbors had stated. I've actually spoken with the young lady on Yerrick who has the daycare several times. I've been past there before when we first started talking about this, and she, only one of the neighbors have even reached out to her since then, really just to apologize for her feeling as if, you know, they felt a different kind of way about them, but no one has said anything to the family about the daycare center. They've not talked to anyone until she sent that email. From my understanding to talking to her, she hadn't spoken to anyone down here at all. It just was sitting. So, you know, I think that listening to what Councilman Neal said about possibly giving them a moratorium to see how it does. I know it's been on the agenda since September, but we have some type A daycares that have continued time on here since 2021 that are still sitting on here. Matter of fact, there's probably 7 or 8 of them still sitting on here that have not been addressed. This family is trying to move forward with their business the right way, and I think we should at least give them the opportunity, because based off of the videos that they've sent us, I don't see the traffic. And these videos were sent to everyone on council. So at least I would suggest looking at the videos before we even take a vote, instead of taking a blind vote without even looking at the footage. but I don't see the traffic that was first brought to us, nor has any of those residents on that street even come back to us again after the time they've come down here. Thank you.
Councilman Malik?
Thank you, Madam President. Councilman McKittrick mentioned the discussion that we had in 2020 on Country Club Drive. And at that time, I sat in the house with the petitioners and sat at their kitchen table and talked to them. And, you know, my heart goes out to folks who want to provide childcare in this day and age, this particular moment. We desperately need it. But we have to balance interests when we're talking about zoning. And when we look at the site here, the same thing with the site there. But the site here is a very tight cul-de-sac. Folks buy a house on a cul-de-sac primarily because they have concerns about traffic, right? And buy a house on Miller Road or on some other street, bought a house on a very small cul-de-sac. The same thing that was the case with the folks on Country Club. You know, I would hope, and I'm sure that we could have OID sit down with these folks and talk to them and see if we can find some space that would make sense, right? That is suitable. I know that's something we've tried to do with the Great Streets and the matching program to try to match up tenants in space. So I hope we can do that. But I think that especially if it's not possible to legally park on the cul-de-sac, it would be very difficult to operate an expanded daycare. And I understand what's been said, but I agree with the ward council person.
Okay. Any other comments at this time? Councilwoman Mobian?
And I think I'm listening to both sides. What I'm curious about, if we were to give them a 90-day permit or something, and then look at it after whatever period of time you give them, just to see, is there more traffic or not? Because that seems to be the question, and not so much, because again, if you have, as Councilwoman stated, a person or the councilman, I don't know which one of the two, you may have a family with 3 kids, and they're driving one van or one SUV or something and dropping off 3 kids as opposed to 3 different cars. And we don't really know if there's going to be that much more traffic. I'm just wondering if there's a happy medium where we can give an opportunity just to see. It sounds like some of the neighbors probably felt badly and did say something to the couple. And I don't think this is, at least I hope it's not about race. I think it's more about congestion. And true, when you're in a cul-de-sac, it's a smaller area. Sometimes people just are fortunate to look up on a nice house on a cul-de-sac as opposed to being real planful. But, I mean, is there a way to give a limited permit? I mean, can we just think about this and then come back to it again? Is there a rush to vote? Thank you.
I think that will be up to the ward council person. Councilman McKittrick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to go ahead with a vote. I guess what I'm troubled with is these are so similar, and there seems to be so much discussion on it, but the last time, as I said, Councilwoman Mobian suggested that the petitioners withdraw their request because the neighbors weren't happy with the aspect of more traffic and things coming in. So I guess I don't understand why this is different. And the only other person on council that spoke in regard to this was the ward council person. And he's just stated that he agrees with my feelings on this. So I would like to go forward with the vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I also just want to say, as a ward council person, these issues are difficult. I know Councilwoman Mosley said there's quite a few on the agenda. I know that I have one. Why? Because we were unable to work out issues between the daycare provider and the neighborhood residents, right? And so it does become challenging. People buy a home and, they buy a home in a residential area, right? And so they have real concerns about businesses opening up and expanding and those types of things. So it is a challenge and it is difficult. So I understand those concerns, and so that's why I always take the pulse and kind of the lead of the ward council person. So at this time, we're going to ask for a vote, and we are voting for an adverse report on item number 19. All in favor of an adverse report signify by saying aye. 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 Roll call.
Baylor?
Aye.
Connor?
Aye.
Freeman? Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Nay.
Neal?
Abstain.
Amobian?
Abstain.
Somerville?
Aye.
Okay, this passes 10-1 with 2 abstentions.
Thank you. Councilman Fusco?
Thank you. The request of committees for time on 20, including 23, and to file item 24, that's the petition that we just voted on, then time on the balance of the agenda.
Time will be granted. We're going to continue with old business, budget and finance. Councilman Freeman.
Committee's report's favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
We passed this evening. These are the appropriations, final appropriation for the budget in 2022, and with that, we ask for its passage. Mr. Wheeler did indicate today that he had not received any inquiries, so we're comfortable with passage.
Okay, thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor?
Aye.
Connor?
Aye.
Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0.
Okay. Public safety, Councilman Kamer, do you have something on the agenda?
Thank you, Madam President. We do have a substitute.
This is a substitute offered as an amendment offered by Councilman McKittrick and Councilman Fusco. Ordinance amending and/or supplementing Title 13, Chapter 135, Offenses Against Persons, Section 135.06, menacing of the Akron Codified Ordinances, in order to impose a mandatory minimum jail sentence for incidents of menacing against public employees and utility workers and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you. There was a adjustment to this, but I'll yield to one of the sponsors if they want to make any comments before we make our final vote. All right, with that, we're asking for passage.
Okay, thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. I'm sorry, Councilman Neal?
Thanks, Madam President. I had asked Ms. Williams for some clarification, because I want to know what the definition of menacing, what we were using. And she referred me to the Ohio Revised Code, which I thought was interesting because, you know, my concern with this is just what happened in these chambers. How this body will pick and choose what part of the code it wants to enforce. I know why this came about because, you know, people were passionate about how they were able to be engaged in here. As we saw today what happened, folks were thrown out. And I think with all that's going on in this city, for us to move in this way, this past weekend, 6 people shot, 2 people killed. We've brought legislation in to deal with that in our community, but this body does nothing. But now something that's going to potentially protect us we move with some expediency to pass some legislation. And my concern is the way we handled the crowd here today, that this right here could be abused. So, I mean, I understand the intent when it first came in, public workers that are out, service line workers and whatnot, but then this came in right after someone expressed their frustration with how we use the process and the procedure down here to bully whip things. And they spoke out of frustration. And then this legislation comes in. And then we see what happens today when people again express their frustration. This is bad process that's producing potentially very troubling and bad policy. I understand the original intent, but based on what has happened here these past few weeks and how we want to pick and choose how we use the revised code, I'll be voting no against this.
Okay, thank you. Councilman McKittrick?
Thanks, Madam President. I just want to make a clarification. Really, that's probably way off base as to why this came in. And if we look at what's going on around the country, we look at what happened to Nancy Pelosi's husband and what happened there. This has nothing to do with disagreements with people coming in here and talking, and they have the right to come in and do that. We had council people who've had nails put in front of their house in the street. We've had cars damaged. What's the next step? We've had council people asked to be met in a dark alley. That's the reason this came about. This wasn't because people were disagreeing with us. It wasn't picking and choosing. It was to protect people because we see things are moving. They just keep moving in that direction. What's next? What is next? Protesters carrying firearms in front of public officials' houses? That's why this came about. It's to protect people, all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments at this time? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Nay.
Amobian. Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-1.
Thank you. Before we go into our new business, I do apologize. I want to go back because Mayor Horgan wanted to have comments after item number 10. Mayor Horgan?
Thank you, and good evening. I don't want to forget, especially what today is. It's your last council meeting, and we don't get a chance to do this very often, but it is a holiday season coming up. And really, blessings on your families and to you. There's no doubt that you all have very difficult jobs. And we've also volunteered for those jobs, and you will ask to do tough votes again. You've had them before, you'll have another one. But the respect and the service to the community is about serving your constituents and your citizens, and that's why we are all doing this. As vehemently as we may disagree on things, I still respect your opinion of why you vote. That's okay. I disagree with it, but we are going to continue to push and to bring ideas for you. It's not going to be apathy or ignorance, and we're going to disagree on some other things, and you're going to be asked to be doing tough votes, and that's not the worst part of it, but there's also a level of respect that you have earned, not only from me, but from the community. And quite frankly, tonight, I don't think that was shown. There's a level of decorum that we should practice, absolutely. And part of that was not displayed here tonight. So you can cross the line to say, listen, I do this. That's okay. It's okay to have that disagreement. But the other parts of it, that does cross the line. But I do respect your service to the community because you did volunteer to do this. And public service has not gotten easier over the years, especially with the level of communication that people can reach us at almost any time during the day. But we also signed up for it. And we also, we take with that as the job that we do each and every day. But I didn't want to let the moment pass by appreciating, the decorum, the questions that were asked all throughout the process, from once we first started. I happen to have been around with Mr. Freeman when we did all of that work on that area. So there's some history there in trying to be consistent. And your views are your views. And I will lobby you and ask you to do this, and you will say, no, I don't want to do this. That's okay. Don't hold it personally, but the ideas are there. We're going to continue to bring good ideas, which I think benefit the entire community, which is what, you know, some of us were elected to serve, and whether it was ward council, that's your constituency, and I appreciate that. But happy holidays to you and your families. I want to make sure you all heard that from me too, so God bless.
Thank you. So at this time, we're going to move back into our agenda, and we're going to go into new business.
Item number 1, offered by Councilwoman Mosley, Holland, and Amobian. Resolution expressing support for Ohio House Bill 456, which would decriminalize the possession of fentanyl testing strips. Expressing thanks to the Ohio House of Representatives for passing this life-saving legislation. Encouraging the Ohio Senate to act upon this legislation before the end of the 2022 session. Encouraging Governor DeWine to sign House Bill 456 into law and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
The request of the committees for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
I don't know if any of the sponsors would like to speak on this. Probably do a better job than I on this one. Thank you.
Councilwoman Mosley?
Thank you. Yes, this resolution will express its support of the Ohio House Bill 456. It has already passed the Ohio House. It is on its way to the Ohio Senate, and we're hoping that it will be signed into law by Governor DeWine. This will decriminalize fentanyl testing strips, which are already being used by many of the agencies throughout the city that they hand out to a lot of those who are suffering with the disease of addiction. There's also a letter that you all were given from our Health Commissioner, Donna Skoda, in support of this resolution. And we do hope that it will pass, and I do hope that our colleagues on this council will join us in support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor?
Aye.
Connor?
Aye.
Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco?
Aye.
Holland?
Aye.
Kamer?
Aye.
Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley? Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This resolution passes 13-0. Item number 2, offered by Freeman, ordinance authorizing the issuance of a bond of the city in a principal amount not to exceed $15,500,000 for sale to the Water Pollution Control Loan Fund of the State of Ohio to finance the costs of Riverside Sewer Separation, CSO RAC 34 project, pledging certain revenues from the city's wastewater system on a subordinated basis to secure the payment of the principal of and interest on the bond, and authorizing the execution and delivery of the bond, the trust agreement, and other documents, and the taking of other actions related to the issuance and sale of the bond, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman?
Committee's report's favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This would allow the city to issue a $15,500,000 bond for the Riverside Sewer Separation Project. With that,
Thank
we
you.
ask for its passage.
Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor?
Aye.
Connor?
Aye.
Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 3, offered by Freeman, ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent to enter into an agreement or agreements without the formality of advertising for bids for the purchase of miscellaneous supplies, services, repair parts, and labor for machinery and equipment used by various divisions and departments of the city for a period of 1 year, authorizing payment therefore and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman?
It's self-explanatory, no bid ordinance. With that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you. Any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor?
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
Abstain.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0 with one abstention. Item number 4, offered by Freeman. Ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids for the purchase of materials and services needed by the various divisions and departments of the city for a period of time not to exceed 5 years, approving the specifications therefore and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman.
This is a bid ordinance, and it allows our purchasing agent to enter into agreement with various vendors that we have with a set limit onto how much that can be, and with that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you so much. Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules are suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 5, offered by Freeman. Ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance to enter into an agreement or agreements with systems and software for support and maintenance of billing software for the Utilities Business Office in 2023, without the formality of advertising for bids and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman.
Committee's report's favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
Any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This will allow us for the expenditure of systems and software for our utilities billing. It was brought up today in the committee meeting. This will be the last year for this particular software because of our change in meters that will be happening here within the next year or so. But with that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 6, offered by Freeman. Ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of advertising for bids for the purchase of annual subscriptions and maintenance packages for the software currently used by various departments of the city through December 31st, 2023, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman.
Committee's report's favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This would allow the purchasing agent to enter into annual contract with some of the different software packages that we use, Office 365, Workday, our GIS system, just to mention a few, and with that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 7, offered by Freeman. Ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent to enter into an agreement or agreements without the formality of advertising for bids with Amazon and WB Mason for the purchase of miscellaneous supplies and small dollar purchases used by various divisions and departments of the city for a period of 1 year, authorizing payment therefore and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman.
Committee's report's favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
WB Mason and Amazon are what we call catalog vendors, and these orders do work with Workday, so nobody's out just, buying for Christmas through Amazon. It actually has taken a load off of the purchasing agent, and with that, we're asking for its passage.
Okay, thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
Abstain.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0 with 1 abstention. Item number 8, offered by Fusco, ordinance accepting a dedication plat for the residences of Good Park and a vacation plat for a portion of Kildare Road and West Sunset View Drive and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Consent agenda?
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 9, offered by Fusco, ordinance approving the donation of city-owned land at 40 Kent Street to the Battered Women's Shelter and/or Family Promise of Summit County, determining said property is not needed for public use and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Yes, thank you. The wishes of the committee is for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. Again, this is a donation of land to the Battered Women's Shelter and/or Family Promise of city-owned land to support their initiatives. So with that, we're recommending approval this evening.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
I'm sorry. Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 10, offered by Mosley, ordinance amending ordinance 10-2022, the 2022 no bid ordinance to increase the amount authorized to spend with a vendor and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 11, offered by Mosley, ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent to enter into an agreement or agreements without the formality of advertising for bids with Bob Sumerall Tire, Precision, Pneumatic, and Waterloo Transmission for the maintenance and replacement of the city's fleet of motor vehicles and equipment, authorizing payment therefore and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley.
The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Amobian. Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 12, offered by Mosley, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for the installation of 2 previously purchased GBD screw pumps at the Water Reclamation Facility and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley.
The committee's report is favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley? Neal?
Aye.
Amobian? Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 13, offered by Freeman, resolution adopting the 2021 Portage County Hazard Mitigation Plan Addendum 1 and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report's favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This resolution, when we adopt the 2021 Portage County Hazard Mitigation Plan, it allows us to then apply for a federal grant in the amount of, I believe, $300,000 as we look at our watershed, look at our 100-year-old dam, and think very, very far into the future. And with that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor?
Aye.
Connor?
Aye.
Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal? Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This resolution passes 13-0. Item number 14 was the substitute read-in during public safety. Item number 15 is offered by Kamer, Mosley, and Malik. Ordinance establishing the maximum hiring age for original appointments to the Akron Police Division at 45 years of age at the time of application and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer,
Thank you, Madam President. Committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you. I'm not sure if my co-sponsors have anything to add, but this is basically to move forward with the max age to increase our pool of individuals to apply for the police department and continue to hire good officers.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Councilwoman Amobian?
I'd like for us to move this mayor and council as a whole, because I think we're all interested in increasing the number of officers that we can hire on the force.
Okay, thank you. Councilman McKittrick?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second for mayor and council as a whole. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor?
Aye.
Connor?
Aye.
Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0.
Thank you so much. That concludes our new legislation for this evening. We're now going to move into our public comment period. First public comment that we have is Apostolette. I don't know if she's here. Apostolette. Han Gambrell. Hannah Laura. Perfect. Oh, yeah. You want to? That'd be good. Go out to the hallway. She can swear everybody out.
Do you need a new pen? It's a nervous tick. Oh, no, we're gonna be higher than that. It needs to be no age required. It should be no max. I'm telling you, no one 60 wants to be a police officer. No one, they just don't. But if, I know some 50-year-olds in some really good shape.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying.
Oh, sure.
Just leave them.
You don't gotta be on your feet. People don't realize that. And when is up there? I'm 16. The whole family was there. The boss was the same. She did. You gotta call them and tell them congratulations.
I'm not saying that because it's Christmas. You've done well.
God's fingers, his family at the library.
Just turned 66 here.
And they're in the same room.
Do you need these for your newsletter? I'll send them. Really? Wow.
Absolutely.
In 5 months,
Scoring 10.
What time was that?
9 o'clock. It's early, it was early. Well, the one is the other day, was you the last one on board?
Well, the way I should have been 50 pounds less.
Is Hannah Lori with us? Is she in the?
I think she might have left.
Is she still out there?
I think Hannah Lori left.
Is she here? She left?
She was here, but I
Is
think
Hannah Lori Gambrell? Hannah Lori? Reverend John Beatty. Why don't someone begin to kind of line them up?
Madam President and council members, thank you for your patience with us. I want to thank you again for honoring John Sharp. John has been under a considerable stress, and I don't know what caused his death. But I regret the times when he called, and he called many times, and I sometimes did not answer those phone calls. I want to share with you, I have enjoyed walking in what I call Senior Moment White Pond Park. I believe Mother Nature has been under a tremendous attack all over the world. I recently read that the weight of what we humans have built, concrete, asphalt, you know, the whole kit and caboodle, weighs more than all the trees and bushes and flowers and grass in the world. We are a very industrious lot. We like to develop, and we like to develop in order to make money. And I think Mother Nature has restored a lot of the damage that we human beings have done to that area. We do need a park in that area. We need a park where we can get away from all that we've developed and all our busyness and watch the eagles, the squirrels, the raccoons, the possums, and so forth. I believe that Mother Nature's done a pretty good job in these 15 years of trying to develop that property. And I think for the sake of the city government, for the city of the developers, for the citizens, that we should leave it to Mother Nature. Maybe some trails, maybe some parking areas, but to make it a park where we won't spend too much time, we won't live on that contaminated area. Let Mother Nature restore what we have destroyed already in that area.
Reverend Beatty, thank you so much. I'm sorry, your time is up.
Okay, thank you very much for
Thank
this
you.
privilege. Appreciate it.
Alexis King. Alexis King. Harrington Hargrove.
Good evening, Council. Harrington Hargrove, 1008 Laurel Avenue, Akron, 44307. I'm here about the minority business and the we don't have opportunity. In my community, y'all know community, I'm in Ward 3. Madam President, do you have those letters for me tonight? I have to address you. I'm asking a question. What's wrong with the question? I have to address you. That's law, bylaws here. I can't come to the council. I have to address my questions to you. And my question will you give me the letters I've asked for my denial? Will you give me the letter? I have 3 minutes to ask you this. Will you give me the letter of denial for my ARPA dollars? Will you give me the letters I've asked for? If that is not in your RAM, who do I ask for the letters? Do I go to the mayor? I can't get any answer of my question. Let it be on record that you will not give me my answer. I'm going to ask HUD, will they get the letters for me? I'm being redlined and discriminated against. Citizens' participation with these community development block grants. We're supposed to participate in that, and you're supposed to answer us. If we gave disrespect to this council, we'd get put out like we just did. That's an easy question to ask. Well, can you tell me why they redline in the Ward 3? Why is it in Ward 3 only body can get something is Parks and Recreation? That's more important to this city than the development of our communities? Parks and Recreation? That's where the ARPA dollars is going. You have, this council has not slated anything for us under parks, under these programs. How much money have this council spent in Ward 3 in the community development block grant? Is that a legitimate question? So you won't answer me.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hargrove, your time is up, but I am more than happy to talk with you after the meeting and make sure that all of your questions are answered. David Garan.
David Garan, 682 Delaware Avenue. First of all, Councilman Fusco, you owe an apology to Councilman Neal. Your behavior was horrible tonight. This body, it's kind of amazing. You can't seem to follow the rules. You always suspend the rules. And everything's an emergency. I mean, that's a problem. So I'm here to speak against the White Pond, which you've already decided. But the things you didn't consider is the railroad companies just improved that railroad line. And why did they do that? Maybe they're going to increase traffic in that line. And maybe people aren't going to live in that area. There's also a high tension line there. Do people want to live right next to a high tension line? And what about all the pump jacks that are in the property? I personally have seen 3. I've heard there's 4. Are they going to turn those into playground equipment? Maybe put dinosaurs on them, you know, fossil fuel, for the children to play with? I mean, what are you guys thinking? I mean, you need to involve people from the beginning. You didn't involve us. You have the arrogance to stand up here and say, you know better. Now, I know, I work for the government, actually, and I know that various forms of government, the state government, They pretend to follow the law, but they don't always go after these developers when they're doing the wrong thing. They simply fill out the forms and say it's all okay. You are responsible for this. The mayor is probably going to get some kickback at some point, or some point in his family. And you guys are responsible. You are. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Ward. Patricia Ward. Patrick, okay.
How y'all doing? Well, I want to talk about the daycare that y'all guys turned down on Yurt. I don't see what the problem is. I don't see what the problem is. We came here in what, September, and to look at this, y'all already voted down on this, and it's like 7 other daycares on here that's still on the agenda. I really don't understand. I don't even think y'all took the time out to even do y'all research. Y'all probably rolled through the neighborhood, but did y'all actually talk to somebody? Did y'all come talk to us at our home? I haven't talked to nobody at my home from here, so I just don't understand. I was listening to the meeting earlier. He was saying something about the fire hydrant. It's a fire hydrant next door to my house. Like my driveway can hold like 8 cars. I got a 3-car garage, so my cars can be in the garage, and 8 cars can fit in my driveway. So I don't see what's the concern of cars pulling in my driveway if it's not blocking the circle. Yes, I'm in the cul-de-sac, but the circle doesn't have nothing to do with my driveway. My driveway is big enough to fit 8 cars. Like, I even took pictures and printed them out because I just don't see what the problem is. Yes, we're trying to expand the daycare from 6 to 12 kids, but that don't mean 12 kids gonna be coming at one time. If I want to get 8 kids, I can get 8 kids. If we want to get 10 kids, we can get 10 kids. 8 kids, we necessarily had to have 12 kids at one time. Everybody's concerned about the traffic. It's just a cul-de-sac. Everybody in and out. My business, they mind their business. So I don't know what the problem is. Yes, it's residential, but it's a business right up the street that's residential too. It's the same thing. It's just a different business. So I really don't know what the problem is. And then I just don't know. I don't know. And I'm confused, and I just feel like ain't nobody take the time out to really look through this, and I feel like y'all just rushed. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you, Patrick. Zach?
Wow. So I had a thought that I wanted to share about White Pond and about my opposition to it, talking about the process that led up to that, lack thereof. And then we just witnessed this, and I wanted to talk about process, and I don't need to talk about it now because we just witnessed a one-act play on how it's functional and how this process of this body does not work for the public. Is this even a public meeting now? Well, in the hallway, half the people can't hear it. We were told to leave here. Police came out and said we had to leave the building. So many people left, and they're not sent Zoom links or a chance to even comment tonight, even though they're planning to. Except the police explicitly said, leave the building, and started moving. I wouldn't say that they didn't do anything, but when officers start approaching a crowd, those of us that have been in protests before start to get a little triggered. And you just passed a menacing bill. Where do it lie for us? Menacing means nothing to us. I'm very confused, and my thoughts are all over the place. I really apologize for that. This is a bit of a stressful situation that this body has an opportunity, so many opportunities, to reach out to the public, to make this process better, to engage us, to have us work with you, to collaborate, and every single time you go the opposite direction, and it's so heartbreaking. Any trust that was built up before about half an hour ago is gone. And trust is so hard to build. Trust is so hard to maintain. Why waste it? And I really want to thank Councilman Amobian for coming out. I feel like you really averted a catastrophe. It was very stressful out there. We were being told to leave the building, which made no sense. And before you came out, I don't know. I was a little afraid as to what might happen, as to the worst case scenarios that could happen. So I really appreciate you coming out, diffusing that situation, and allowing us to stay, which I didn't know was, like, I thought public comment meant the public was allowed to comment, but you coming out and doing what you did. And I appreciate everyone that voted no on the White Pond issue. Thank you for listening to the people. Thank you for hearing us. Thank you for reasonableness and a public process that involves the people. So I will live the rest of my time.
Thank you. Andrea Nickcap? No. Andrea Nickcap? Peter? Peter? All right, Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, I had some things planned to talk, but when y'all illegally, had the public. I guess the new order of business for police officers is to wait outside of public meetings to steal constituents' phones. Used to have been an invalid warrant for my phone, stole my phone. It was signed by Judge David Hamilton on November 2nd. It's now December 12th. Why am I being handed a warrant over a month later for my phone? It was improperly filled out. It expires at 8 p.m. and y'all pushed us out at 8 p.m. And so, I've been here for things tend to go down, how things have gone down with Pond, how things have gone down with the police murdering Jalen Walker, murdering Kira Bradley, murdering Muhammad Isafan. And time again, it doesn't seem like any of you really care about the people in this city, right? There's this facade of democracy and this facade that you care about people, but more and more we push, the more and more it seems like this isn't a democratic institution, democratic government. And as we're chipping away, we're starting to see that this is just a sham. This isn't democracy. You don't have 500 people coming to White Pond, corrupt development. I am saying corrupt because I'm sure there is money interest behind this. We already know that the mayor campaign finance. It's not democracy. It means that this body doesn't operate in the interests of the people. It operates in the interests of private developers and slumlords. And as we push and push, responding to us, in fact, you pass menacing public officials some vague thing so that you can people with more prosecutions. We have currently 75 people going through the colonial courts for unconstitutional charges from protesters, and the courts, the city killed Jayla Walker, protesters who dared to. I just walked out here and had Sergeant Patrick Newman steal my phone. Not the just took it because this police department is accountable. And, we throw around the word a lot, but it's starting to look an awful lot like fascism, right? A fascist police department, and a fascist mayor administration, and a fascist city council.
Thank you. Lillian Barnes.
Good evening. I'm here. As some people don't know, I'm so God rest his soul. Just the respect for this community. I mean, nothing but disrespect since Jaylen Walker. That saddens me.